Saw friends. It's me, Matt. Welcome back to Hobby Vom. I'm with some friends. We'll go. Let's go clockwise or counterclockwise. Whoever wants to take the lead. Some handsome men here.
I think that's me in the queue. What's up? I'm J-Poc. Excited to be on the channel. Thanks, Matt, for the invitation.
Oh yeah. We got 3 real daddies here. 3 actual real daddies.
Yeah. 3 actual real daddies. There we go.
I guess I'll go. Hey, everyone. I'm Josh, a.k.a. Tabletop Jonesy.
And then everybody, you've seen me before, hopefully. So this is Ian. And also, in addition to having 3 real daddies, we also went in order of number of kids.
Yes. Starting with
Wow, that's true.
the least.
Wow.
Yeah. One day. Maybe one day.
It all happens in its own time.
Yeah. Okay.
Or it happens in a very short amount of time, in my case. It's just, it is what it is.
So this is a channel about parenting and about how to reproduce. So here we go. So this is our first movie discussion, and we rolled it up and in a little randomizer, and the movie that we picked or was picked for us was Waterworld, a classic according to some, but this is the first time I saw it, and I think what we're gonna do is do some spoiler-free ratings first, and kind of go around clockwise and give what we thought of it and our score, and then we'll go into spoiler talk and try and keep it within 30 minutes or so. And at the end of this, we'll also do a marble race to see what our next movie is going to be. So, what I thought of it, I didn't know what I was getting into really. I just knew the title and I knew it was a classic. And so I actually had a lot of fun. I laughed a lot. Maybe not for the right reasons, but I had a lot of fun. And so I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5. So that was my rating for it.
Nice.
Well,
Thank you, dude.
All right, Daddy 1.
So I'd seen the movie before, but it was a long time ago. I was maybe pre-teen. The only thing I remembered is some gill action with one of the characters in particular. But overall, enjoyed it. It's a fun movie. I remember liking it the first time I saw it, and it was fun when I watched it over this last week. I would give it probably a 6.5 on a scale out of 10.
Nice.
And it was fun. I think it's worth a watch.
Yeah. All right, Josh.
So I thought I had seen the movie, but I think after watching it, I realized I probably only saw bits and pieces of it, like when it was on TV in the front room with my family. So I have very vivid memories in my first home, like it being on quite frequently. So it was a pleasant surprise for me. I had a great time watching it. There were some parts that I laughed out loud as well, I think, for the jokes that were written into it. And yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5 as well, just based on pure enjoyment. And I think it was a really good 90s, just fun movie that had a lot of really cool production value in it.
Yeah. Awesome. And then Ian?
Yeah, and so I basically gave it the same score, just under 3 out of 5. And so this is kind of a fun time to mention this, but when I was growing up, my dad and I, this is how we spent time together, was watching movies. He's a big movie guy, but he's not a big movie buff like how we do. My dad basically just watches only C-tier action movies. So when I say I watched this as a kid, I shouldn't have watched this as a kid, but I did watch this as a kid. I think I was 10 years old when I first saw this film. And so it's kind of funny going back and watching it, because I was like, yes, this is exactly the C-tier action movie I remember it to be, but I still got to get new things out of it as well. So that was kind of fun, things I just would not have understood as a 10-year-old. And so, but as a 10-year-old watching these characters on the scene going through this story, it was still very cool. And that was also kind of my first time being introduced to the idea of well, what if the world was an apocalypse, right? And so, yeah, it was fun kind of going back and seeing that again. So basically, again, C-tier, a 3 out of 5 for me, but I had a fun time.
Awesome. Your dog is cracking me up.
Yeah, I might have to go let him out.
He goes to the bell, clinks it, and then turns and looks at you slowly.
Amazing.
Let me out.
It's I don't know what the hell you're doing, but I have been here.
He's I waited for you to record. Yeah. I waited for this moment.
I called for help twice.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to mention is I had to bring up the kids because before we hit the record button, we were talking about the cousins. So we gotta get into that at some point.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So, all right. So yeah, now that did you give your score?
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. Okay, awesome. So yeah, those are our scores, and that's pretty much. I don't think any of us really have anything spoiler free to mention. And does anyone?
Well, Ian mentioned obviously it's a post-apocalyptic movie.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious, Ian, like how would you compare it to other post-apocalyptic movies that you've seen, or the rest of the group?
Yeah, so I really want to like get into this, and I think I can get into it a little bit without spoiling anything.
Actually, sorry, real quick to interrupt.
Yeah.
Do we want to read like the synopsis from like
That's a
IMDb
good
or
idea.
something, just in case no one's in case you've never heard of
Yeah.
Waterworld?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
please do, and then I'll hold because it'll make a lot more sense after the synopsis.
I don't have it pulled up. Does anyone have it pulled
Yeah,
up?
yeah, I can pull it up.
I'm afraid I'm gonna break the stream if I open a window.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can do it too, but Ian's got it.
Yeah, so because IMDb should have it. It's a very short one on IMDb. Is that okay?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
I
a
think that's
couple
perfect.
sentences.
Yeah.
It just says in a future where the polar ice caps have melted and Earth is almost entirely submerged, a mutated mariner fights starvation and outlaws smokers in quotes, and reluctantly helps a woman and a young girl try to find a dry land.
Okay.
Brilliant use of the word reluctantly there.
I'm actually surprised that it does say. I didn't read that before I went in and watched it. So, to me, the mutated part was a huge like surprise for me. I had no idea. So I'm surprised they put that in there. But yeah. So that's the synopsis, and then sorry, what did you want to say?
Yeah. So one thing that's kind of interesting about this film is that it was released 10 years after the third Mad Max. And so, which of course is a movie that a lot of us are really familiar with today, not specifically the first three, but you know, the newer editions, of course, the Mad Max Fury Road being 20 years after the release of Waterworld. And what I thought was really fascinating, and I'd love to get into this more, but there is a lot that the movie tries to do to actually kind of be its own interpretation of Mad Max 2. Note that Mad Max 3 did not do very well for a lot of reasons, but one of them was that Mel Gibson actually, his best friend who was a producer on the film, actually died in a crash during the production of that film.
Wow.
And so he actually checked out for several months, or like I say several months, but it was an extended period of time before coming back to the show, and then they restarted filming. And so it makes sense that would, I mean, it's also a trilogy, so it's hard, but like it makes sense that one wouldn't do as well. But people love the second one, and this one, like if you read the synopsis or go watch the second Mad Max movie, there is a lot that this movie is trying to do to be similar to that one, kind of be like a reboot of that. But then funny enough, there's also things in this movie that Mad Max Fury Road took. So it's kind of cool, like how it kind of gets wedged in, gets influenced by, and then later influences that series. So
yeah, I haven't seen OG Mad Max, actually any of the original three Mad Max, but yeah, I mean, seeing Fury Road, I kind of seen clips of the OG, and I know that Fury Road is very similar to the older Mad Max movie. So yeah, it was fun watching this and being like, yeah, to me it just was like Avatar: Way of the Water meets Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
I had a similar thought, yeah.
And I was like, all right, like I'm here for that. So I'm trying to think if I've watched any other I'm sure I have post-apocalyptic movies, but like with this type of tone, yeah, really just Mad Max, I think.
well, I think for our generation, I mean, a lot of the apocalypse movies are zombie movies. I mean, like growing up, it was like they were like all zombies.
Yeah.
Mad Max kind of like died off after the third one didn't do so well. So I will say, but I really enjoyed watching this, and I've enjoyed watching like the second Mad Max before. I mean, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but Mad Max Fury Road, I loved Fury Road.
Yeah. Same here.
So it doesn't rank up, but it does have that same vibe. You know, I can watch Waterworld and be like, oh yeah, they're doing that, and they're doing that, and they're doing that. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
It was like a water fever dream of like Indiana Jones or something like crazy, like a weird adventure. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they just don't make movies quite like this very much anymore with that kind of adventure feel. Yeah, I think Mad Max Fury Road is one of those exceptions.
Yeah, I was mentioning to Brooks earlier that I feel like one of the most interesting parts of the movie, which again, I don't think they put a lot of thought into, but like the soundtrack, there were certain moments where I feel like it had that 90s like feel good music and scenes that
Yeah.
didn't make sense to me. And I was telling
He's
him
doing
earlier
like
that I was like,
somersaults and stuff.
they,
Yeah.
yeah, they could have gone like with a much darker tone of the movie. And
Yeah.
I think it would have been pretty cool. I don't think they should take away from what they created here, but
Mhm.
yeah, there were some moments where it gave me like hook like
Yeah.
vibes with the music that they picked
Mhm.
when Kevin Costner is just like grumpy and angry and like pissed off that he has to help out these two people. So I
Yeah.
thought that was the interesting choice sometimes, the music like trying to make me feel warm fuzzies at
Yeah.
certain moments.
I also think it's not to go too much before we go into spoilers, but actually, I'll just say this for spoiler talk because it does talk about the end of the movie, not specifically, but just in general. So, any other non-spoiler thoughts?
Well, just one question
Mhm.
for the group. I mean, obviously, this movie is considered a flop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, wasn't critically acclaimed by any means, but I think it's a cult classic.
Mm-hmm.
Do we feel like it's a flop, or is it kind of underrated?
For me, I kind of looked into it a little bit because it is considered one of the biggest flops of all time, but it still made money. Normally, a flop you have to not make money, but this actually made more than its budget, so it technically isn't a flop, but it's still considered a flop, which is really strange. I think before Titanic, it was the most expensive movie ever made, is what I saw.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
it just didn't make enough for it to justify its budget. So, I mean, technically it's not a flop. I mean, I think for me, I felt like it was under. I mean, when I first went onto Letterboxd just to see what it was, I think it's like a 2.9, which is about what but I think for an average that's felt low, even though that's exactly what I gave it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I could see it trending more. It seems like the longer we're separated from it, the better reviewed it's gonna get. Because I think movies like that just don't get made as much anymore, and it does feel
100%.
fun to go back and watch something like that. Yeah. So I would say a little underrated. I don't hear anyone talk about Waterworld. So I'd say a little underrated for me.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think it is a little underrated. I mean, obviously, I have a little bit of nostalgia kind of mixing in there. So, and I mean, of course, it's an expensive movie. It costs a lot to like flood half the world to do the filming of that film. So, but no, I mean, I think it is a little underrated. It's so. I mean, I think part of that is definitely colored. It's hard to call it a flop because when we see flops today, it feels very different. And there's also like different pressures too with streaming and stuff like that. But I still enjoy going back, and I like having like popcorn, funny action adventures that don't take a lot of brain power, and I could just sit there and enjoy, you know. And like I think that's okay. I don't think every movie has to be this, you know, supreme taste of art. It can just be like a little silly, and
Yeah.
that's okay. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Agreed.
Josh?
What was the question again? Whether we agree?
Do you agree that it's the flop, or is it a little underrated?
Yeah, I guess yeah, from an executive standpoint, I guess they considered it a flop because they were hoping for much more than what they got. But I mean, for the enjoyment I got out of it, yeah, I think it's fantastic. So Netflix, you can thank us once you see streams increase on this over the next few weeks.
All right,
The
4 big
three
ones,
streams.
baby. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Yeah. So those are our spoiler-free thoughts. If you've not seen Waterworld and you are worried about spoilers, you should stop watching. And if you've, yeah, I think that's it. So here we go. We're going into spoilers. Spoilers. That's the noise, so people know tune out. You know.
Love that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it. Because I didn't know much about this movie, I didn't know the tone of this movie. I definitely thought I'd have more things to say or question on like a deeper level, but yeah, you kind of just touched on it, Ian. It is very popcorn, kick back, relax, like just enjoy the ride. And one of the things I found most interesting was how I think there are some scripted humor. There's some scripted humor in there for sure. But there was a lot of not scripted humor for me. I laughed so much, but it's just one of those things that like it wasn't even like a so bad it's good. It's just like the characters
I
are
agree.
so like cartoonish and like it just was funny.
I have one like thought that wasn't like, oh, I just enjoyed the movie and funny moments,
Mhm.
as I wanted to see if this stood out to anyone. So I really appreciated that Kevin Costner's character, um, even though he like took on this friendship and finally enjoying the company of the little girl and the woman. Um, I really liked how his relationship with the kid didn't turn into a tropey like, oh, I'm just going to adopt you and
Yeah,
Helen,
father figure
and like
role.
I'm going to live happily ever after with you guys. And then I also really appreciated how they didn't make his and the kid's relationship awkward. I didn't feel like it was awkward or weird at any point. And I really liked how he like used the word like, you're my friend, and that was like his driving motivation to just like take care of them.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was kind of probably like the deepest thought I had, that I just thought I really appreciated from the movie, that it didn't make it weird or awkward. It was just a nice little thing that kind of happened naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there is like a big implication behind those words, that they are literally his only two friends that he's ever had like in his entire life, right? And that this like makes it powerful, right? That like he has spent his entire life not trusting anybody, and always having to do things for himself. But now he finally has two people he can put his life on the line for, and he recognizes the value of that by the end of the film.
Yeah. I thought it
But
was
with that point, that's also why, to be honest, I didn't like the ending at all. I don't like that he just decides to like peace out from the dry land. It reminded me of, I don't know if there's any, I know Josh probably knows this reference, but Dragon Ball GT. At the very end of the show, Goku literally just like leaves Earth and goes where no one even knows, and it always pissed me off since since I was a kid. And so that kind of triggered a similar feeling. I was like, okay, these are the only
PTSD.
friends he's ever had. He built these relationships. He's obviously been drifting for such a long time. Like, bro, chill. Like, hang out with your friends. Like, I don't know. I hate that.
Yeah. I think to me it's more of like I get why you don't want to live on land because you're a
Yeah.
mutant,
A fish hybrid.
a fish hybrid. Yeah. Which
Yeah.
but like you could also just like I don't know, stay close. Like
You can stay on the
anchor
beach,
off
bro.
anchor off the shore, man. Like
Yeah,
you're-
just have a floating home. Like
Yeah.
he's literally just going to be living on a boat, like
Yeah.
floating out
Literally.
the island.
yeah.
So I don't want to like break the immersion of the film, but I always, especially this time, like I was watching that and he's like sailing away, which I know has to happen. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure like 5 minutes after this film ends, he hits a wave and it's like, wait, hold on. I just left an old man, a young girl, and a 20-something-year-old, maybe I think 20-something-year-old woman who's cared for these people the entire life with zero fishing supplies, zero hunting supplies, zero camp making supplies. He's like, they're dead. Like
and
I just
skeletons,
left-
yeah. People who clearly already didn't survive there. They'll be all right. There's horses, man.
That's
They got horse meat. They'll get that horse meat.
I don't know if you have something to explain, Matt, but I feel like we got to talk about what was our favorite like humorous moment of the movie.
Yeah, no, let's do it. You want to start?
Okay. No, I want you guys to go first. I want
Okay.
to see what you come up with and see if they line up with what I wrote down.
Okay. Oh yeah, I can start. For me, there's quite a few, but the one that I audibly like laughed, I clapped. I found myself clapping and laughing. Was the bungee rescue? Was just like
The bungee was crazy.
as soon as I saw it and they were converging on her, I was like, no way, he's about to bungee. No way, he's about to bungee.
What,
and
was
he
it
just
even
died.
bungee cord or was it a rope?
it
It's
was
technically
like
a
a
rope,
rope.
but he bungeed up, and then the explosions are happening behind him, and it was so I clapped. I don't clap in movies,
Okay.
but I clap for that. It was so good.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that one.
Yep, that was it for me.
I had a pretty good giggle when Kevin Costner's character drops the torch down into the oil pit of the ship.
Oh my god.
And then the guy's like, what does he say?
He's like,
finally.
"Thank
He said,
God."
I wrote it down. He goes, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite parts. Oh my
that was
gosh.
great.
That's good.
That was like, I wanted to turn that into a meme, like millennials right now. Like,
Yeah.
oh thank God. It's
God.
over.
It's over.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was one of my. I love that character. What a great character. He's only
You talking about
on
the guy in
screen
the
for.
well?
Yeah, the guy in the well. He gets like
yeah,
what
so-
7 seconds of screen time, but so memorable. He was so good.
And then you guys took my top two. So I think my next one is just because it's kind of a classic. Is when the guy he crashes his car right with our secondary antagonist. He crashes his car, and of course he crashes his car. It's like, dude, you had so much time to swerve. But he crashes his car, and then you know he's not dead because you don't see him die on screen. And then he shows up with his gun that we've barely seen him fire, and then it's like it's completely out of ammo. And I just love the fact that Kevin Costner just didn't even say anything, right? Like this is the hero's moment to like glow. He just like smirks and shoots him. It's just so good.
That whole character too, like, like he was like Gaston meets like Hannibal Lecter, and he had like 8 different accents throughout the movie. Like I just did not understand who that character was, but I loved it. Like,
should have bought me that drink.
Should have. Yeah, exactly.
Such an interesting character.
So I forget what's the patchy guy's name.
Who?
I don't remember.
Which guy?
The patch.
The main bad guy.
Oh,
Deacon.
Deacon.
Yeah.
Deacon, that's right.
Yep.
So he had a lot of lines that were great. But the one that I think I laughed the most at was when Kevin Costner shot the boat with the guy shooting, and he was slowly turning it to them shooting, and they're all yelling like, Chuck, Chuck, like Chuck, and then Deacon goes, maybe he doesn't answer to Chuck, call him Charles.
I forgot about that.
I thought that shit was so funny. I was dying at that part.
I think he said Charlie after that too. I think he goes like Charlie or something. It's so good.
That was hilarious. Yeah, so
Deacon had some really good lines.
So my follow up real quick is, since we all talk about our funny moment, to talk about the Carrie factor of this film from 1995 to now. Did anybody notice how Deacon was introduced for his final speech? Deacon of D's.
Oh, wait, what?
Oh, D's.
Yeah, the people are like D's. And
they're called the D's, yeah.
The D's, yeah. So, but in the Netflix, because I always watch the subtitles, in the Netflix subtitles, it says Deacon of D's, Deez.
Literally, yeah. I watched the subtitles too.
That's hilarious.
That's incredible.
D-E-Z.
That's funny.
Classic.
Another, this was like meant to be. This was a scripted comedy part, and it actually landed really well. Was like him fishing, but like using himself as bait for that creature. I thought that was hilarious. Great. Yeah, it was so good. She's like, "What are you doing?" Yeah, just chomps him out of nowhere, and then he just explodes it, and then it flops right onto the grill. I'm just like,
big old fish steak.
Yeah. So I thought that was good. If you like the delivery and weirdness of, I think his name's Dennis Hopper or something like that.
That's the antagonist is Dennis Hopper.
Yeah. He's the main antagonist in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and he's equally as wild and weird. And like I don't know if he's just such a good actor that character feels fake, but in a good way, or if he's a horrible actor, but it lands anyways because, I mean, like, because the character is so wild. I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm like, that was great acting, or I just didn't care.
He is also the antagonist, I believe, of the original Speed. Although that's a very different role for him.
Never seen Speed, but that's the bus one, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Man,
Keanu and Sandy Bullock or something.
Yeah.
Well, I also let me pull this up. I just wrote down a couple little notes if we need to. So yeah, I had a question, and this probably just speaks to how not smart I am, but right, if the water's that high, isn't there like something with like altitude, and like if you're always up that high, can, like, you know, with like your oxygen levels, like you go to Denver and like does that not affect, would water change that, or like how would that work?
Well, there would be no vegetation on that island that they find the dry.
That's true.
Dry land
Yeah. I guess I never realized like how deep are these cities? Like how tall is the water?
Yeah, so I was actually looking at this. So there's a couple different ways to take it because I was curious if they spoke about this at all. I don't think that they have. But presuming that every city on Earth gets flooded and presuming that the tallest buildings on Earth all collapse, then the water would only have to be hundreds of feet deep. So we'd probably be talking somewhere around like 1,000 feet at most, maybe a little bit more than that.
But like, how would that
for
work with
certain areas.
like Denver, right? Mile High
Well,
City.
yeah, so then the thing is just like you have to act under the assumption that there's actually a lot of dry land. People are just not finding it.
Yeah, there would be mountaintops everywhere.
Because even with Everest, for only Everest to be dry land, all of the other high mountains would have to be underneath, which would only leave like 1,000 feet or something. Because I think Everest is maybe 1,000 or 2,000 feet taller than the next tallest mountain. And so, yeah, they would be like suffocating from lack of oxygen. So I think you just have to operate on the assumption that there's just so much landmass underwater that people are they're trying to find mountains and they're just missing it because they're getting lost and confused because they don't have any land masses to track any progress on, just in the same way that it was really hard for sailors coming across the Atlantic the first time around. And so they're just missing it, or people are finding it and they're staying and they're not telling anybody else about it. So I think you have to assume something like that. Otherwise, yeah, everyone's just dead. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering because at first I was like, that's the until the very end you don't see land and you don't really know how deep. So I was just assuming like, yeah, there's probably like mountain peaks sticking out, but like how would like that change the climate of that if it would, if the top of a mountain is frozen most of the time, right, snowy, wouldn't the water like not? I mean, I don't know.
So actually, no, because
I'm not a scientist.
So there's like two things that are somewhat plausible, and there's obviously a bunch of stuff that's not plausible at all. Like, for example, even if all of the polar ice caps melted, which is the entire premise, you'd only flood like California, So it's like we just lose one state. Like even College Station would be above water by a significant margin. They approximated like less than 300 feet would go under. So nowhere close to like flooding all of human civilization. So that one's out. Plus there'd be no metal because 400 years or so of everything being submerged means all the metal is like rusted to nonsense, right?
Yeah.
But two things are actually kind of plausible, which is interesting. Vegetation could happen if it's not actually like Mount Everest height elevation, because the water would be boiling, which would heat everything up. Right? Because now water is not evaporating at sea level, it's evaporating at whatever the new sea level is. And so vegetation will naturally grow because it'll just be hotter. And they even talked about this in the notes that like based on what they expected, like everything would just be hot all of the time because water would be evaporating everywhere. Which is for the most part, like best we can tell, that'd be true. The other thing which was crazy to me to be plausible is that the ship that they're on could still have oil. I was really curious about that. I was like,
if that's even possible.
Yeah,
do you look to see what the story of that ship is?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was really interested in that too.
Should we say it real quick before we get into that? Because I feel like that's a fun little fun fact.
Yeah. I think it speaks to a lot of stuff that goes into the movie as well. So yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember the names of the specifics or something, but there's that portrait that Deacon is talking in front of the captain of that ship. Yeah. And so he's a real person in real life, and I think he got arrested because he's part of the Exxon tanker where a huge oil spill happened. And so
and that was the Valdez,
which ends up being that is the ship that they're on, that specific ship, and like he was the captain, which I just found to be weird and funny. Because I didn't, cool. I had to look it up because I was like, this seems like a very intentional shot of this captain, and it looks like a real picture. And then, the final shot of it going down, it says the Exxon Valdez or whatever on the back of it, which was funny. And it makes sense for the plot, like why there's all that oil in there in the ship.
And I mean, that was a massive catastrophe. The Exxon Valdez oil spill, it was a massive catastrophe. And he was heavily investigated because everyone thought he was just drunk. Like he just completely negligent in the command of that vessel. And that was a absolute fiasco.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was funny that they decided to kind of rip into him.
Yeah, because I think
just
later
'cause
on
later.
it was found that they didn't charge him,
Yeah, that's correct.
so it makes it even more interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, so I was curious. I'm like, could that ship, I mean, maybe not that one specifically, but could an oil tanker actually still have oil? Because because people have to have forgotten mankind, right? So it has to be like several hundred years. And so I looked up, they said it'd be like 400 to 500 years later.
Okay.
And I'm like, could a ship even last that long? Presuming that they can actually take the crude oil above, because these are oil tankers. So presuming that they can take the crude oil on the ship and convert it to oil for fuel, which they actually could theoretically. So that was kind of interesting. Most of these ships carry anywhere between 60 to 80 million gallons of crude oil, which is enough crude oil to last more than the span of the film. I looked it up. It would be if they operated the ship at maximum, like if they just moved it every single day, they would consume about 350 gallons a day of fuel. And that's like fuel after being converted from crude. And they would burn about 63 million gallons at 500 years. And I was like, that's crazy. I was like, they can actually like plausibly be in a situation like 400 to 500 years later where they're running out of fuel.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's cool, yeah.
But we also have like 7,500 such oil tankers on the ocean at any given point, which is just crazy. Like how much. So think about that. There's 7,500 ships that all have enough fuel on board to last them 500 years.
Yeah, that's
at any given moment in time.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like how much like there is in the earth. It's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I wrote down, other than like just the standard. If we want to talk about favorite characters or favorite moments, or anything like that, I did find it funny that they were the family were all like cousins. I thought that was a great choice for them to make, because it didn't have to be. I mean, yeah, I just had there's so many things I'm like, man, that was fun. Like the scene, like the underwater ski-doo, what are those called? Jet ski. The underwater jet ski ambush.
That was cool.
Like practical?
That was sick.
No. But was it cool? Yeah, it was pretty cool. And like yeah, some of the things, like when he first gets to that settlement, and that was one of my favorite parts I laughed at too, when the guy is like, he's like the lookout, I guess, but he's spinning like this fast.
Yeah.
And like if you're spinning that fast in a 360 degree, it's all ocean as far as you can see. And you're telling me you didn't see this giant like
Armada.
Yeah, coming until they're like so close that they reached you within 15 seconds. And yeah, his reaction, his call out is hilarious. But where did they get all the cigarettes, and why are they carrying the cigarettes on an oil tanker?
That was my biggest plot hole. It's like, there's no way 500 years later they still have some cigarettes.
Yeah, I love it though, and he's like, he's like dumping them out to like his like followers and stuff.
Just ripping cigs. Yeah.
Yeah, like what a writing room. I just like, so it's so creative. Like it's just I had a lot of fun with it, but I also think there's some really good like cinematography. I thought the shot where he is teaching the girl to swim, or she's like kind of riding on his back.
Yeah.
He takes her under. Those underwater shots are so good. And that's like pure joy on her face. And I thought those were some really, really excellent shots. So it's kind of got it all. It's got actual good film. It's got so bad maybe it's good kind of stuff going on. But yeah, just a lot of fun.
I think the moment that got me, I was like hooked, ready to sit down and grab some popcorn, was that initial attack on the base. And then it just cuts to 4 guys on water skis, and they just get launched on that ramp over the wall. It's so good.
It's so good.
It was amazing.
It really
So
is
good.
like that moment in Mad Max when like it cuts to the dude who's just like shredding on his guitar. And I'm just like, he's like on bungee cord shredding as they're like driving. I'm just like, I don't know why this is here, but I'm so glad that it is. Like, it's just funny.
The assault is made so much better by the fact that the last person to like breach jet skis underneath the wall.
Yeah, they could have just gone underneath the whole time.
So they were sitting there like,
Yes.
wait, hold on. You pulled like 8 people on skis over 2 ramps.
Literally launched
and
them.
launched jet skis, and he could have just got under the entire
And
time.
they just went. Yep, exactly.
He was the only one skilled enough to pull it off.
Yeah.
It's true. It's a hard maneuver. Okay.
It really was like they sat in a room and they were like, all right,
Mhm.
this whole movie is going to be action and water. There are no bad ideas. Anything cool we can think of, we're putting that in this movie. But yeah,
Go
This is a random moment I just thought of, but I also liked little moments like when he found the jar of dirt and took it to the guy that was analyzing it for the trade, and the dude just took a giant mouthful of it. And he's like,
yep,
that's dirt.
that's dirt.
That's good.
Yeah.
I liked moments like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, just like little world building. It felt like that probably would happen. Like that's how they test to see if it's dirt. It's just like they got someone who's somehow has that skill, has acquired this skill through practice. I don't know. How has this dude learned what dirt tastes like? Or they're just like, you're the dirt taster. Just make sure all it's the same and it's probably dirt.
Amazing.
Yeah. I thought there's a couple of funny, like the romance I don't think worked for me, especially because there was like 3 phases of it, and I thought so phase 1 is she's just like, thank you for rescuing us, let's bang, and he's just like, no, I respect you and I don't want to do that because you don't want it.
I'm a good boy.
I'm a good boy. Then he's like, just kidding, I'm gonna sell you to a slaver and I'm gonna let him bang you for some money
crazy.
or whatever I want. And then he's like, wait a minute, no, this is wrong. And then she's like, wow, that's sexy. Like, first you wanted to let someone else bang me, but then you decided not to. Take me. And I'm just like, I don't know. This seems like she's going on a roller coaster of, yes and no. I don't think most people would want that after that.
Yeah, and really what triggered it was they banged after Enola got captured. I was like, that was weird timing.
Yeah.
Weird timing. They're on the wreckage. I'm like, what is happening?
They thought I think that part was she thought they were gonna die.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like
I think so too.
Last dying.
Farewell.
Because they were floating there. I think their lips were chapped because they didn't have any water and they were hungry, and so it was kind of like, well, we're gonna die anyway.
Yeah, I agree. That happens a lot in like Stephen King books. He has what seem like out of place sex scenes, but then it's like I could get behind that, right? Yeah, they think they're gonna die, and like it's like a connection. It's not like they had zero connection.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you though that I think if he hadn't given her up to the trader, I feel like it would have worked a lot better because he said the reason when she first presented herself wasn't because he knew she didn't want it, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. But then when you throw in that moment, you're like, but you didn't seem to care at that moment.
Yeah,
so
he went from
But
they just glossed over that.
Yeah, it's like, is that supposed to make us as the viewer be like, I like this guy? Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, no, you put us in that situation.
And that's what I wanted to ask you guys. Like, there's a lot of things I like about this movie. It's fun, whatever. But what do y'all think about like Kevin Costner's character, the Mariner? Like,
the Mariner.
I don't know. I came across I didn't really like him at any point in the film.
I'm trying to think if I did. I think I did. I think I liked him. I mean, I think you can tell there is that part of him that is good. I think he's mostly good, but there are just some choices that I'm like, he starts out as that grump. Yeah. He doesn't want to have anything to do with anyone, and like it's like the classic. It kind of is a little tropey, right? Like gets put in a situation he doesn't want to be in, and you get to see him morph into a good man. And like the moment where he's on the oil tanker and he's just like, why did you come here? And yeah, it's like zooms in close up and he's just like, because she's my friend. And like it's such a funny line, but like I like it. Yeah, it's just I'm like, yeah, good for you. And yeah, I think I like him. I think he's kind of like I think there's some like moral gray areas, if you want to call it that. But
I just wish we could have gotten a little bit more from him.
Sure, yeah.
It was just a little too grouchy for too long. Yeah.
There is a 3-hour version.
That's what I was about to say. There's a 3-hour version that people seem to really like, and I think it does flesh out the relationship between the
Oh, does it?
mariner and the two and the girl and the woman a little bit more on the boat. So I could see that feeling a little more natural.
Well, there you go. I'll give it a 10 now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're gonna have to give Netflix 4 more streams for that Ulysses cut.
There we go. Can we get the Zack Snyder cut on that too? That would make it even better.
Yeah, exactly.
gosh,
A lot of we need more slow motion, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So it was actually, but that kind of like leads into my question as well, because I actually do like the Mariner throughout the film, because I think that he shows. I think there's a different way you could look at some of his actions, and you could find like the small things of kindness. So I'll give an example. He throws a knife at the guy who's going to attack the one person that showed him kindness when he came to town.
Yeah.
Even though that person was going to be responsible for his death in some sense, right? Because he was responsible for lowering him down, right?
Yep.
But he had shown him kindness, and so he like throws the blade to like help save him. He probably might die anyway, right? But like we spare the blade here. So I think there are like small acts of kindness that we see, and so you can see he's like kind of trying to do his own kind of justice. But I mean, I think for a lot of people, what sours him is maybe the scene where he's meeting like the sun crazed drifter.
Yeah.
And so my top question when I was like thinking of questions was like, do you actually believe that he genuinely was offering Helen, like the older woman, to the sun crazed as a part of a barter?
I do.
Well,
I think
mean,
at first,
he was sat there for a minute too, like contemplating for a while. Like it seemed like he was ready to sell her away.
Yeah, I think he definitely had a change of heart, but I don't think from the beginning, because he doesn't even run down there until there's commotion, right? She kind of tries to break free herself, and
I think it's just like when he throws Enola in the water.
oh my
I don't
gosh,
think he realizes. I don't think he realizes like, oh,
Just
yeah.
freaking yeets her
I
off
think
the
he's
boat.
yeah. I think he's interesting because he's been by himself for a while. I think it's hard for us to also understand the type of world and like situation this would be. With it, we're saying I didn't know what the timeline was, so we're saying this is like 500 years past our time, kind of.
Mm.
So yeah, also like there's no like guidance or like moral balancing act that people are given. So I feel like he did it, and then inside he was like, oh yeah, it's not a good idea. But I noticed too that he didn't go down there until there was commotion. So I feel like he was just gonna let it happen until he kind of heard that, and I think that jolted his reaction of rethinking about it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like they were willing to kill him purely because he was a mutant. Like first they wanted his seed. They wanted that family and they're like, oh, can we use your seed? Because we're all just banging each other, and it's not turned out
a little goofy.
Yeah, it doesn't turn out great. And then they find out he's a mutant, and they're just like, okay, well, we're just gonna kill you. So I get why. Yeah, I think I think that says a lot about the world, right? We don't really know because they haven't talked about it, but like, seems like if you are a mutant, it's just pure instant death for whatever reason. And so I could see why he, doesn't like humans and doesn't want to form that attachment. But yeah, I agree. It's like every time he does something bad, pretty quickly he rectifies it. But I guess it is really only those 2 times. But yeah, I mean, like he threw that girl. Even if she could swim, which he didn't know at the time, but even if she could swim, that's a death sentence. You're done. Where are you going to swim?
Yeah, so
and he knows about the monsters.
and the monsters, yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's like some clarification there, right? Which is why I bring it up, because I don't actually think that he was being intentional in the way that we think he was.
Talking about
so I think
traitor
when he offered Helen, yeah. So I think that like this is not great, but I think that the barter was twofold. I think it was acting out of his flaw, the way that he punishes those around him. That was him, like, once again in this wrestle of authority with Helen, and like basically him like punishing her for kind of being, in some sense, stepping on his toes and like being a nuisance and not listening to him, right? And it's not good. It's very immature, but like he also doesn't spend time with people, so that kind of immaturity is expected. And I think he did plan on murdering the drifter, which is also not good. But he doesn't trust drifters either. And then the thing with like Enola, right? Enola, he throws her in, but everyone can swim. She just can't because she grew up on dry land.
Mm-hmm.
everyone can swim. You teach your kids to swim like immediately, right? He even says that I've never met someone who can't swim.
Wait, she grew up on dry land?
She was like a small kid when she came to them in like a basket as like a
Oh,
a
yeah,
small kid.
okay. But like a baby.
Yeah, that's why she says she's home.
Well, but
when
not a
get on the
baby.
dry land.
Somewhere between like 2 and 4. I mean,
Okay,
Well, when
okay.
And when you see the skeletons on the island when they get there in the hut,
Yeah.
there's the tattoo kit right next to
Yeah.
them.
Oh,
know if you
I
saw
didn't
that.
see that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because they tattooed it
Oh,
on her, and they must have just
interesting.
let her drift. Yeah,
just
So
like
those are
Moses
like
in the basket.
literally the people that tattooed
yeah, that was her
her?
parents. Probably
Yeah.
her parents.
Oh yeah, I totally missed that. I thought it was
It's like
just
Tarzan, man.
people. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Tarzan.
Yeah.
Get
So-
the Phil
so-
Collins soundtrack going.
Yeah, and he also said too, because when he teaches us to swim, it's also like no, they're sleeping at this time. Like we don't get why that's the case, but like the point is like they're not always dangerous. So he could have easily just been like, kid, you need to know your place. Throws her in, right?
Yeah.
And turn her on the boat, and that's just to teach her a lesson. And I think the thing there is like the lessons are also consistent. Again, total flaw, total asshole move, but they are consistent. He's like he doesn't like humans. And he's like, isn't this how you humans would treat each other?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you just cast each other aside? Wouldn't you just sell each other into slavery? Right? A human steps on my boat, and the first thing he thinks is, I'm going to sell these two people into sex slavery, right? Like, it's like, this is what humans are. And I'm letting you be on my boat. And it's like, again, like, it's a total asshole move, but I think that's his flaw as a character, right? Is he's like, kind of taking out his grievances against humanity on them.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Because it makes sense because he also feels insulted because he's like doing something for them and he doesn't like humans. So I think like but like, when I think about like that, I'm just like this is a character with a lot of need to grow, but not like a guy who's just like I care so little about people that I would just sell them into sex slavery because then it's inconsistent with his character from before.
I would agree. Yeah, I think he's got
Also,
certainly redeemable qualities.
The more I thought about it, the more I'm like, it's crazy that they did that whole tattoo on a little girl's back. And like, what really was the point of doing that? But like, how terribly painful that must have been and traumatic.
I thought the revelation was just kind of funny too. It's just like, oh, upside down, duh. Like, oh, we just never thought about it. Let's just go that way. Like, you never went that way.
Latitude's backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what that actor's name is, the older guy.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I have so many memories of that guy in
I
movies
liked
from the
him.
90s.
I will say a lot of the performances were like, even especially I thought the drifter guy, the sex slaver guy or whatever, he was really good. Like he sold that role. I thought he was great. But yeah, I thought other than the antagonist, which I can't even decide if I just think it's genius, like masterclass acting, or it just was like fun and funny. But yeah, I thought a lot of the acting was really good for that kind of a movie.
Did anybody, Matt and I never talked about this, but did anybody else notice the other famous actor that was featured in the film?
Very small role.
Well, he was the
I don't know.
pilot of the plane.
Y'all need a pilot.
Who was it?
So,
I did not notice.
the pilot of the plane from the ship, the one that's like flying in circles around whenever they did the whole like harpoon hook into the gunner. That was Jack Black.
What?
Yeah.
It's Jack Black.
What?
There's no way.
Yeah, look it up.
That's fair.
Waterworld, Jack Black. That's him.
Okay, cool. Brooks was pointing out to me Enola that blew my mind too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nola ends up being the
Yeah.
love interest in Napoleon Dynamite. Was that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as they introduced Enola, I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I know that face. Yeah.
Her hair gets cut, and you're like, wait.
Gosh, those haircuts. Nobody had good hair. Honestly, the bald
No.
guy, I made me proud. It's like the bald guy's got the best hair in the movie, other than Gaston guy, whatever. He does those beautiful locks.
Yeah, Kevin Costner was looking like season 1 of Michael on The Office.
Yeah, wasn't a great look. Wasn't a great look.
Not the long hair part, the like
Yeah,
thinning
the
hair in
thinning.
the middle part.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I know we're getting a little bit long, but the last thing I did want to talk about was the whole Mad Max story because I thought that was kind of neat, and you guys might find this neat as well. But so Mad Max 2, Mel Gibson specifically said that for Mad Max 2, they were trying to go with more of a Western. The idea was that it was going to be a story about a grumpy survivor who doesn't trust anybody, who then has to learn how to trust and help survivors, which sounds very familiar. And the idea of the Western kind of element was meant to be the fact that he lives in a lawless land with no morals and no laws and no nothing, right? And he's got to decide that for himself. And so Waterworld is very clearly like an homage to that, right? He doesn't obey anybody's rules. There is no laws as far as we can tell, just arbitrary ones. And he has to learn how to trust and befriend survivors as a part of his like character arc. Whether or not we sort of call this one a Western, I feel like maybe it could be sort of a stretch on both. Certainly lawlessness is an important part of Westerns, but it's easier to say Mad Max when it's Australia versus
wet Western.
Wet Western, right? It's a wet Western versus Hawaii, which is where this was filmed. But now something I didn't know though, because I was very curious. In Mad Max Fury Road, Furiosa is a child that's stolen away, as we learned later in the next movie, stolen away from the Green Place. And I was like, I never thought about this when I saw Fury Road, but I'm pretty sure the Green Place is not a part of Mad Max, like the original trilogy. And so I went back and looked up, and it's not. So what's kind of interesting is Waterworld like kind of takes that archetype and it has the survivors going someplace, and this place that they're going to is dry land, right, where the girl is from. And so I thought it was really interesting that it is like very clearly 10 years after Thunderdome trying to be kind of a reinterpretation of Mad Max. And then 20 years after Waterworld, we get Fury Road, which takes a very similar archetype, right, in story structure to Waterworld. Now they're all he's got two people that everyone's after. They're all jammed into one ship. One of them is a girl who was taken away from the Green Place that now they need to get to. You even have the character who's all about silence, right? And where where the main girl is kind of taking a lot of lines in that interaction to like drive his character. He's being very like obtuse about whether or not he knows about the Green Place / the dry land. So I just thought that was very interesting to kind of see that development.
There's a cool connection.
Yeah, that's cool
for sure. Last thing I want to say is just how cool the boat was. Not much to say beyond that.
The boat is sick.
The boat was pretty sick. Yeah. The opening, the whole opening scene where you got to see it was pretty cool. Also, the opening shot being him peeing was just.
Yeah.
I was like, oh boy, what are we getting into here? Like, what a shot! What an interesting first shot. I wonder if that is the first shot on the Ulysses cut as well. Because it seems like strategic. Yeah, I mean, like we're gonna open on him peeing and then showing off the whole water purification system and all that.
I feel like everything Mechanical showed in the movie was really cool. And then now that I know that it was very expensive to make, it makes sense. They spent a lot of like time and attention and detail, and I imagine all of like the set people had a blast like working on all that. It was really fun to like see all the imaginative stuff that they came up with.
Yeah. I can't imagine as an actor being like soaked all day.
It'd be crazy.
Yeah, there was a large paragraph that I won't read on IMDb about how difficult it was to do so much filming like on sea or on the ocean, and how seasick everyone on the cast and crew was all the time. And they mentioned that they tried remedies constantly, and that the thing that worked the most for majority of people was eating ginger snaps. And so they like made a very large order of ginger snaps, and everyone just tried to eat them regularly to help with it.
That's where 173 of the $174 million went.
Exactly.
Ginger
Speaking
snaps.
of seasickness, I did like that they made a land sickness joke there at the end.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Any final thoughts?
I was going to say
final
that,
thought.
go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, sorry. And
No, you're good. You're good. I've talked too much.
Well, I just think that since all their components float, Chip Theory Games needs to do a Waterworld for their next IP.
Right. That's right. That'd be sweet, honestly. I would love to see more in the world of Waterworld.
It's cool. Yeah.
Apparently, there was a stunt show at Universal or something, or Disney, or
they do it. It's always ongoing. I went. We saw it last year when we went on a trip last February.
That's crazy.
It was like funny how I saw that. Yeah, they have lots of really cool practical effects. They They do like the ramp launch from
Nice.
behind the main stage into the main stage.
Oh,
They're
that's fun.
shooting water at like the audience the entire time. And then they really lean into that, like, I don't think slapstick's the right way to
It's like
describe the humor, but like
campy.
that like cheesy humor. So I feel like they do a really good job. It's like a 20-30 minute long show.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
And I was just going to say that maybe it was because of how many takes they had to do or how they had to get used to it. But one thing I did notice was how many shots where Kevin Costner has a really comfortable approach to water. There was like one scene like where he's like going through the wreckage and he just goes submerged, like no hesitation, like it's like he's walking through nothing. He just walks down in water. And like I was on swim team, and like even as much as on swim team, like you always will like squint or blink or like hesitate because you know you're about to get like hit in the face with water.
Mhm.
There's that uncomfortability when it hits your eyes. And but then you would think like a character who's like a mutant, right? His gills for his ears, right? That he probably it doesn't really bother him, and also it's saltwater too. But so that was just kind of interesting. I was like, oh, that's kind of a fun little detail that can kind of help make the character a little more believable. And then the other thing was just that he at least shows us all how much you can accomplish with a rope, a harpoon, and an anchor.
Yeah.
Because that's all he needed to basically win the entire movie.
Yeah, he's like, guns? Nah.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
my single harpoon. And I can turn any rope into a bungee cord.
yeah.
He's got that superpower too.
It's just like okay, I need to get on the ship. I need a rope. I need to stop this plane. Where's the nearest rope? I need to save this girl. Where is the nearest rope?
Tie it off. Tie it off. Tie it off. He just bungeed with he was going in no
Yep.
matter what. But yeah. All right, well cool. Good discussion, everybody. So before we go, we're gonna do the marble race to see what we're watching next. So hopefully this works and everything goes smoothly. So I'm gonna do this, and then I need to stream it. Here. Boom. Boom. Now I think once I start, I'm gonna need to switch back over so that it is actually picking it up on the stream. So 3-lap race. I just took the movies that we have in our a wish list or a watch list that I've made, and these are all streaming, so we shouldn't have any problem with the winner streaming. So I think this will be for in 2 weeks or so. That's when we'll go ahead and record the other one. So I think we'll do every 2 weeks or so. So here we go. I'm putting them in. We're gonna do 3 laps, and yeah, here we go. I'm hitting start, and then I'm gonna swap it back over so I can see it. So here we go. I'm swapping back, and yeah. We'll watch it. So we can kind of see it will get little checkpoints and adjust the order of the racers. So yeah, I know some of us have seen some of these movies before, but most of these I've not seen.
I have no idea what the power of the dog is.
Now, do we get to
Dog.
disqualify in these marbles for foul play?
Sure, we can.
Josh, the power of the dog's about me because I got that dog in me.
Dang.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Have you guys watched any Love Is Blind?
Of course.
Did you see the newest season where the dude's just like, I got the dog in me. I got the dog in me. And she's just like, stop. He's like, okay, I will. But I got the dog in me. She hates it so much. Every time I hear about the
We're
dog.
coming up on lap 1.
All right, lap
Being
1.
done.
A Real
Lead.
Pain. So Real Pain, that's a new.
I don't know what that is either.
That is nominated for Best Picture this year with Jesse Eisenberg and one of the Culkins, I think.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
There we go. Number 1 is currently one film I can watch with my kids, who have
Yes.
actually already. All of my kids have seen it more than Matt.
Yes, I've never seen The Greatest Showman. Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna love it, but
I think you'll be surprised, Matt. It's
Yeah?
really good.
I do
Yeah, it's
like
fun.
I like musicals
If
and
you
I
just-
like Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, if you
It's
just
fun.
go into like enjoying the music and stuff, it's a good time.
Yeah. Oh no, it looks like it. Oh no. It
Oh,
didn't. Sometimes it's hard to. Oh,
Oh,
dang! All right, they're out of here. What is this, baby lop? Oh, Babylon. I was like, what the hell is baby lop?
Yeah, and I only mentioned the thing about The Greatest Showman because I never expected that a movie would be on this list that I could actually watch with my kids.
Hey, you
Today,
can watch The
I
Lighthouse
was,
with your kids.
I don't know I don't know what that movie is.
No,
But like
you should
today,
watch
I
it
was
with your
finishing
kids.
up Waterworld, and my kids were like, "Dad, what are you watching?" I was like, "It's like the adult version of Moana." And
Yeah.
they're like, "I love it," but I was like,
Yeah.
"You can't watch this."
Yeah. Blood.
Here they come.
Oh, we're
Hold on.
coming up to the grand
Oh,
finale.
Lighthouse.
Go watch that.
Let's go, Baby Lop.
I don't think We Are Who We Are is going to make it.
I don't think they're gonna make it. Blood Simple is an old Sam
Wow,
Raimi
Real
film,
Pain.
which I've never seen. I love Sam Raimi. Yeah, Real
There it
Pain.
is.
Real Pain. That was it.
A real
There's-
pain.
A Real Pain. That's the one with Jesse Eisenberg and the Kogan's up for Best
Okay.
Picture. I think it's up for. Actually, no, it may not be up for Best Picture, but it's nominated for a couple of things, I believe. But they're kind of just taking a European vacation, I believe. And it
Let's
just looks
see,
like
so-
a good drama.
Best actor supporting role, best supporting act, best motion picture, best screenplay, writing
Okay.
award.
Yeah,
Oh,
It's got a lot of nominations.
Kieran, yeah, the guy from the Kogan from the Succession.
Yep.
Cool.
And I think Jesse Eisenberg is a
Very,
great,
very cool.
great actor. So, yeah, I'm excited to watch that. It should be good. So, yeah, we'll hopefully talk about that in 2 weeks. Let me swap back over. Actually, I'll just stop streaming. There we go. And yeah, anyone else have anything to say before we get off? All right.
Peace and love.
Thank you, Daddy.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to hit
Yeah.
that like and subscribe button.
Oh boy, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. You're exiled.
Like
You're
button.
exiled. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
See you, everybody.